Hi, my name is T. I am co-founder and VP of Design with CRAV, and I'm here with Design Milk for DMTV Milkshake. So I'm going to answer some questions out of this little CRAV vibrator hat here. Here we go. Okay, so first question. For someone who describes themselves as an introvert, you're very vocal and present on social media in real life. What kind of self-care do you practice? I'm actually very much an introvert. When I have to sort of be on, such as now, I kind of emotionally budget for when I have to speak and kind of be in front of the camera and or talking to press, etc. But generally, I also know that right after things like this, I need to kind of shut down and just completely unwind. And luckily, I have a partner who is an introvert like myself, and so we just kind of introvert together. So that's the first question. Okay. All right, here's the next question. You drove around the country in an Airstream helping people create their own vibrators. That is true. Can you tell us a few of the highlights of that experience? Okay, so in 2018, I drove a renovated Airstream that is a vibrator factory across the countries from San Francisco all the way to Brooklyn. And we stopped at like Chicago, Portland, Palm Springs, Colorado, Boulder. Like we went to so many places. And, you know, one of the things that struck me the most was that people are so ready for a better conversation about pleasure. In my line of work, there are so many things that we're not allowed to do, such as, like, for example, social media won't allow us to advertise. We can't have these kind of conversations around our bodies and pleasure in the places where people are normally having these conversations, such as Instagram or Twitter, etc. And so when I drove around the country meeting people were overwhelmingly enthusiastic and was just down to build their own vibrator, wanted to purchase one. They just were ready. And I guess that was kind of a surprise to me, because I think online, digitally, in a lot of the modern forms of communication, you know, like all these social media platforms, sex is bad, nipples are bad, you know, women's pleasure is not okay, but Viagra is okay. So that was what struck me, is that people are ready. Yeah. Okay, next question. You want people to own their pleasure. Why is this mission so important to you? Agency. I think it is so powerful when someone can own their pleasure, to be able to give themselves an orgasm. And just that agency over their own body and their life is powerful. Yeah, I think when people own their pleasure, just good things come from it. I think it permeates in what you do, you know, in your personal life, your professional life, and just good things come of it. So, yeah. Okay, let's see, here's another one. Okay. Tell us more about your fight for recognition of sex toys by the tech industry trade as a valid and valuable technology category. I'm fighting for recognition as sex toys as part of just everyday consumer products that is part of a woman's well-being. And I've been in this industry for almost 10 years. I started a company in 2008. It was acquired by CRAV in 2010. And wow, yeah, it's been about 10 years. And it's been really, really encouraging, actually. Now that I think about it, there are so many data points that would not have been there when I first started 10 years ago. But in the last few years, very recently, for example, we went to CES for the very first time in January of this year, which feels like ages ago because of COVID. And that was the first time products for women's pleasure could actually be on the show floor, whereas in the past there were tons of products for pleasure, for men's pleasure, on the show floor that was just kind of, you know, littered across, you know, all these all over CES, but when it came to women's pleasure, it was not allowed until 2020, January of this year. So the fact that I was there with CRAV, I mean, that was a huge honor because it feels like we're moving in the right direction. Another data point, we just launched something on Kickstarter, whereas our very first product, we actually have the world's first crowdfunded vibrator called the Duet, and that was in 2011 when we launched, and we applied to get on Kickstarter and we're not allowed. And now that's almost 10 years later, we are now on the platform. They've promoted us on their homepage. They've shared our project in their newsletter, and they've just been nothing but supportive. And so that is like a huge step in the right direction. And so yeah, so that is another big one. And even high fashion such as Yves, Saint Laurent, they did a collaboration with us this past February. And so we're starting to really see how just sex toys are now mainstream, and it's not something to be ashamed of, and it's just another consumer product for your well-being, because that's what it is. There's nothing strange or inappropriate about them. So yeah, it's been a really rewarding journey. So okay, all right. You have been an active member in the Industrial Designers Society of America, advocating for women. Why do you volunteer? Okay. Yeah, I guess I started volunteering in 2013, and to me it was really important that I volunteer with the organization that had a big reach and has a name recognition, because I feel like when you volunteer, you want to build upon something. And for me, it was to advocate for women in industrial design, because there's so few of us, and there's not really that community. And so I strategically volunteer with IDSA because they are such a huge brand, and at the same time, they have a section called Women in Design section, which I have been very lucky to chair for many years, and have helped create a lot of events around that. And for me, it's to continue the legacy of women that came before me, and I want my time and what I give to IDSA to continue on, and it's just continuing to build upon that. And I think as individuals, we can go fast and, very quickly, but if we really want to move and make a change and to help women in industrial design, we really need to move together as a whole. And so for me, it was really important to be part of a larger organization that supported women. So yeah, that is why I volunteer. Okay, all right, I'll just pick one more question and I will call it a day. Is there something out there you desperately think needs to be redesigned? I've said it so many times, our relationship with death. That is one that comes to me very quickly. How we deal with end of life is not something that's not talked about, and it's very much like sex and pleasure. There's a lot of cultural stigma around it, but very much like pleasure, sex, and death, these are all things that are part of our collective human experience. And if we want to live well, if we want to die well, we need to be able to talk about it and think about what we want. And so I think there are so many aspects to the end of life that we don't talk about, and therefore it's very much outdated, and therefore I think there are a lot of opportunities there to rethink how we want to approach end of life. Okay, that's it. So hope you guys enjoyed it, and follow me at Designer T. Thank you.